It's Sunday morning, and every decent man and woman is listening to Test Miles with Nick Miles on FM News 101 KXL. Buckle in.
Welcome to Test Miles. I'm Nick Miles, and today's show is a little bit different, as is every week's show, I guess. We're coming live. I guess we're not coming live. We're coming to you from Mexico, from the state of Chihuahua. And Jeff Zerschmied is my guest today. And we're on a BMW trip. We are test driving the brand new BMW 3 Series. And later on in the show, we'll be absolutely test driving the BMW X1, which incidentally was the first and the smallest compact sports activity vehicle. And now BMW, who have owned 50% of the market on and off for that size of vehicle, will be showing off their new one today, and hoping to make sure they retain their big market share that they have. But for now, Jeff and I are in a 3 Series, and just before we started the show, Jeff, you were going to tell me something about the car.
You know, ordinarily I'm not a huge fan of the BMW driving experience. It has a tendency to be kind of dead feeling. But this car, this new 3 Series, is really eager in the corners. It's got great power with a twin turbo engine. It's really kind of a whole new game for BMW.
They definitely have taken the existing 3 Series and stepped it up a notch, making it wider, making it taller, making it more menacing. You know, 3 Series, they've sold 18 million of these around the world. It is the best-selling vehicle for BMW. 25% of BMWs sold are 3 Series. It's really the company that launched the car that launched BMW to be the company that it is today. They own the market in the United States. They've never been knocked off the top tier of being the premium sports sedan in America. So they have a lot to live up to when they bring out a new vehicle. One of the things that I've always found with BMWs, Jeff, is that it was kind of snug on the inside. It was made for little European people.
You know, that was true. As a bigger guy, the bolsters of the seats always used to hit me in the kidneys on BMWs. But this new seat is super comfortable. I love the fact that this is a rear-wheel drive car with a manual transmission. This is a true sports car, and it shows. And BMW is one of the last that will really give you that experience.
Everybody's trying to get back to their roots of these true sports sedans, true sports cars, very dynamic drives, and it's hard to do. So they've come out with a new version this time around, something called the 340i. There was always the 328i. I can't remember.
335i.
335i, there we are.
The 320i now, too.
320i, a smaller one. But we've gone bigger. We've gone bigger with the 340i.
Yeah, I'm not positive what engine is in this. If it's still the same 3.2 liter that you got in the M3s, might have to check the Monroney to be sure.
Let me read you some stats from the car. So this is actually a 3 liter BMW engine, a twin power turbo inline 6, 24 valve, 320 horsepower engine, which is a lot more. They were just in the high 200s before this model came out. However, the 2016 340i Xi sedan does come with a fairly decent price tag, $46,795 starting price, and then with all the bells and whistles, which I'll tell you about, added in, it's $48,795. Comfortable, sporty ride. It gives you that automatic stop function, which some people absolutely hate in this vehicle, and that's where the vehicle you come to a traffic light and the gas will turn off. It does save you 3 to 5% of gas in the vehicle, so it does have a purpose apart from annoying you. It also comes with the dynamic stability control, includes that brake fade compensation, the start off assist, and the brake, all the other brake portions that come with it. We actually have one with the sport, the special extra package on it, which has the blue brake calipers, which is red brake calipers and Brembo were always the thing to look for on a performance vehicle, and now we've included blue on this one. On the exterior, 18-inch wheels, LED headlights. Now the new headlights for BMW look slightly different. They're two circled headlights. Now actually have an inclusion of an LED daytime running light that goes off into the kidney-shaped grille. I was thinking about that. I wonder if they brought in the kidney-shaped grille because originally the seat bolsters dug you in the kidneys.
That's been part of BMW's DNA, their design DNA, for I think since the 1930s. I mean, if you go and go to a classic car show and find a 1930s era BMW, it's still got that twin kidney grille on it on the front. So I think it goes back quite a bit farther than just the bolsters in these seats.
The interesting thing was I was doing my filming for my segment which will run on Coin in Portland on Coin 6 News, and I was standing too much in front of the kidney-shaped grills, and the photographer said, "You should probably move to the right a little bit." And I said, "Why is that?" He goes, "Well, BMW don't like it when you cover up their kidney-shaped grills." So it was just kind of interesting.
You see those, and you're looking at a BMW.
Absolutely, yeah. The shape, the size, the presence of that kidney-shaped grille gives it all away. Now it has a very nice new upholstered seats. Comes with 10-way power front seats, 4-way power lumbar support, which is always great because finding the nice seat position in a sports sedan is always a challenge for me.
I have to say these seats are as comfortable as anything on the market, and they adjusted right up for me. So I'm a huge fan of this 340i. As I'm cutting through corners here in rural Chihuahua, Mexico. Yo quiero BMW.
Let's talk a little bit about the event itself. So yesterday, to start the event, was quite a trip. Jeff and I, we started off in Portland. We arrived in Dallas. I had 2 flights. I think Jeff, you had 1, right?
I had the direct to Dallas on American.
Right. I had 2 flights to Dallas, and then we got to Dallas, and we were taken to a gate, which was a BMW designated gate for the day. We got taken down onto the tarmac. Some guy looked at our passports. We got taken down to the tarmac. Once we were at the tarmac, they put us on to this Challenger 880, was it? 850 airplane. Never heard of it, never been on one before. They flew us for about 90 minutes into Chihuahua. We got off of those at an airport. The customs guys and the immigration guys in Mexico came right on the plane. We did all the paperwork there. They stood on the tarmac and just asked us if we had anything to declare. No, thank you very much. Got into Cessnas and then did another 90-minute flight. Landed on what was sort of the high street of a local village.
Dirt street. Yes, a big, long, straight dirt street.
All the locals coming out to see the planes land. And then once we landed on that, we got off onto a coach and then had another 2-hour ride to the hotel.
Yep, on the same road that we're on today.
And it was a little bit challenging at times. We'd all been up since 3 or 4 in the morning. But the result is we're driving this BMW 3 Series in the most beautiful and probably one of the most thrilling drive routes in the world to put it through its paces. So Jeff, you've got to drive. Give us an encapsulation before we go to the break of how you feel about the car.
This is a top drawer sports sedan. If you want a great performance car right now, this is really one that ought to be on your short list. The 340i is just a fantastic machine here.
And we're going to get to talk to the BMW guys who are in charge of these vehicles. They're going to tell us all about it. And that's coming up when we return on Test Miles. Welcome back to FM News 101 KXL. You're listening to Test Miles. It's a Sunday morning. The whole show coming to you from Chihuahua, Mexico, where we've been driving the BMW 3 Series and the BMW X1. The BMW 3 Series we just got out of. You heard Jeff and I talking about it. And John Shipley is here. He is the product manager, and we've cornered you in the hotel to answer some very tough questions about the car. Congratulations, by the way. One of the things you warned us about way before we got into the vehicle is we will be very surprised at how well it handles. And you did not lie, I have to say. But let's start off at the beginning. You've added a new version of the car, the 340. Is that right? We haven't seen that before.
No. This is an all-new engine from a new modular family of engines that we are now building. And it is internally called the B58. But the displacement stays the same. It's still a 3-liter engine. We do get an increase in horsepower. We go from 300 to 320. And we also do get an increase in the pound-foot torque. We go from 300 to 330. And as you felt today, the response is fantastic. More than just numbers on paper, you really have to drive the car to feel how well this engine responds.
I wish I could paint a picture of you for Jeff and I driving, but as we were driving the car, Jeff did the first portion of the ride and drive, and then I did the second, and I was disappointed that he hadn't pushed the car as hard as he had, so I started to push it, and I had to stop when he started to get pale at that point. But it's that sort of car. It's the sort of car that goes, why aren't you abusing me, right?
Right. Well, and, I think that that engine can certainly handle it. So we're really glad that you put it through its paces today on these fantastic roads here in Copper Canyon, Mexico.
Let's talk about the difficulties that you faced when addressing having a new or an expanded 3 Series. This isn't a completely new vehicle. Obviously, it's expanded on a vehicle that's been around for a while, but obviously you've done a lot to it this time around. So that's a heavy burden when you've sold 18 million of them. You are the number one selling vehicle. You created the segment, basically. You're the number one vehicle in the segment, the 3 Series is. And now you have to bring out a new one, and everybody's scrutinizing you because you are the bar.
Yes, yeah. It's the 3 Series epitomizes the heart of the BMW brand more than any other model, and more than any other model, the 3 Series stands for sportiness, for agility, and for driving dynamics. And we listen to our consumers and the feedback that we receive, and certainly the result is what you drove today, which is we're very proud of the model year 16, what we call life cycle impulse for the 3 Series.
So what's happened to it since the last generation? What have you done? What are the changes?
So we have new front strut towers, which makes the body stiffer, and thanks to new damping technology, an increased number of suspension anchor points, as well as new electric power steering. The result is a vehicle that has a reduction in roll, so it is sportier without compromising comfort. And because there is a stronger connection to the body and more points to dissipate the forces, it provides directional stability. And the new steering really means a better feedback, and it feels more direct. So overall, we're living up to the heritage that we've established of a sporty sedan.
I think one of the things I notice more than anything else about BMW, when you bring out a new car, you really get down to every fraction of a number when you look at preciseness of how you want a vehicle to handle. It's a very exact science for you.
Yes, I mean we take everything into consideration when looking at ways that we can improve the vehicle. And speaking of numbers, and the new 6-cylinder engine which you experienced today, the 0 to 60 time on the 340i is 4.8 seconds, and with the xDrive all-wheel drive system, it's down to 4.6. So right. It's quite an impressive.
Now, putting an xDrive, putting all-wheel drive in a vehicle, does that make it heavier? Is it harder to engineer all-wheel? Because traditionally, when you took a four-wheel drive and you stuck it into a vehicle, it would add so much weight that a lot of people just didn't want to do it because it was expensive, fuel economy went down, all those type of things. But you seem to have overcome those, and you seem to be getting better numbers than you should.
Well, we have, and we built the xDrive, the all-wheel drive system with all those factors in mind, which result in a vehicle which is approximately 100 pounds heavier than the rear-wheel drive model. And as a result of all four wheels spinning is the reason why you get a faster 0 to 60 time.
Right.
So,
right. Let's talk about, as a consumer, it's in dealerships now. So I walk up to a dealership. How am I going to see the difference from the last generation?
Well, the Model Year 16 LCI has a new front and rear bumper design, so it really gives the vehicle a much more broader appearance, while larger air intakes in the front really enhance this even further. The front is also characterized by a new headlamp design, and with featuring LED technology. And the rear, the tail lights are also L-shaped, which have LED technology as standard as well.
Now, the kidney-shaped grille, did that got sort of it's the same as we've always expected or we've always seen from them? Because, I mean, if you mess with that, you might have some BMW hardcore fans upset with you. Interior, you're expanded as well.
Yes, so the interior, a lot of the sportiness and elegance that you can find on the outside can now be found on the inside with the use of new chrome applications, with high-gloss black surfaces, with a revised automatic climate control display. We have new ambient lighting, as well as trim accents in the door now. So it really gives the cabin a much more premium look and feel.
Now, that ambient lighting is changeable, right?
Yes, on this vehicle it is. You can have it in either orange or white.
Let's talk a little bit about the space in the vehicle. The dimensions pretty much the same?
Yeah, I mean, everything on the outside and the inside has stayed the same in terms of dimensions. So
these are in dealerships now. Let's talk about pricing and fuel economy.
Sure. The pricing of a 328i starts at $39,345, and that includes destination and handling. And what that includes, it's a much better value for our customers this year for Model Year 16, because many of the Model Year 15 Sportline elements have now been integrated as standard equipment for the 328 as well as the 340. So there's a lot of high gloss black surfaces on the outside that are included. And on the inside, most notably, which you've probably noticed today, were the sports seats. The sports seats with the electric side bolsters. So in addition to those sports seats on the inside, customers will get the anthracite headliner as well as a sport instrument cluster with specific dial printing and chrono scaling, and a sport steering wheel with red stitching.
I have to tell you, I love the seats in the vehicle. Those bolsters really help, especially on these windy roads around Copper Canyon where you're making quick switchbacks, and they really keep you in the seat. Well, John, thank you very much for talking to us about the 3 Series. I suggest if anybody wants to know more about it, you can go to BMW's website. Your local dealer will be more than happy to give you a test drive, and just call me at home. I'll talk to you about it all day. Coming up, we're going to do the X1. We're going to test drive it through the same roads, but a little more challenging. That's next on Test Miles. I'm Nick Miles. Welcome back to Test Miles at FM News 101 KXL. I'm Nick Miles, and today the whole show coming from Mexico. I'm in Chihuahua, which is a province of Mexico, where the Gold Coast is, and we're driving BMW X1s as well as the new 3 Series to see how they handle on the road. So we've heard all about the 3 Series, and now you're going to hear all about the X1. Now, we've got to talk about some interesting things with this vehicle. First of all, the X1 was the very first vehicle of its type. This small, compact, most manufacturers call them SUVs. BMW like to call them SAVs, sports activity vehicles. But it was the first one, and a long time before a lot of its competition. Now, BMW have owned up to 50% of the market in this vehicle because it's been so successful. Many competitors have come along trying to recreate the same type of vehicle, but BMW seem to have a hold on what the public wants. Small, slightly capable, economical, high performance, and well-built German driving machine. So driving the X1 up and down the valleys, one of the things that we've had to negotiate, which does not normally happen, is we would come to sections of the whole road that were completely missing. And Jeff Zerchman's still with me. Jeff, never been on a ride and drive with a car company where there was no road all of a sudden.
Well, I have, but only on really capable SUVs and SAVs like we were in today. And I was really impressed with the way the X1 handled the off-road portions and the portions where the road was gravel, rocks, and potholes in equal proportions.
Now, driving through these roads, one of the things that, and I'm going to try and explain it with my words so you get a great picture and a great story of what's happening. So it's this small SUV, SAV that we're driving, and you come down a road and the rocks are so enormous. They are much, much bigger than the car itself. They're scattered all over the road. Some places the road was completely missing, and you'd have to sort of take a gravel path by the side of where the original road was. Now, even though you could see the road was fairly new and had a lot of construction that had been recently done on it, new crash barriers all down the side. And when I say new, I mean brand new crash barriers. In fact, the steel hadn't even been weathered for one winter. So these crash barriers, this road, brand new, and then these rocks had fallen. Now, at one point, we're driving through this road area where we come across an area which has had a really bad rock slide. There are workers there. BMW had workers constantly trying to clear the rocks. There are workers there trying to make a path through the rocks, and so they flagged us to stop. Mexican flaggers are slightly different than American flaggers, where they hold just an orange flag, and they sort of wave it at you and you stop. And then they let you through one car at a time. They let us through. We were the second car through, and we were the last car through, because after we came through the rocks, they had another slide, and that prevented anyone coming through. They had to wait 15 minutes for them to clear a path through it. The interesting thing was, as Jeff and I were the other side of the valley, we'd crossed this rickety wooden bridge, we saw all the dust, didn't we?
We did. You know, one of the things I wanted to mention about the X1 that really impressed me is we went from 7,500 feet in elevation down to 2,000 feet of elevation, driving down these canyon walls. And the brakes, while they got hot and we could certainly smell them when we stopped, really performed, I think, way above and beyond the call of duty. I expected those brakes to fade, and they just did not.
Right, they've built this vehicle to be very, very capable. Let's talk about the few things on the new X1. First of all, starting price is around $35,000 for the start model. There is only one engine available in the car, one trim level. They are in dealerships at the end of this month, so you should be able to go and test drive one. But they've made it bigger. Even though it had best-in-class room, they've increased the leg room in the seats. They've increased the height and the width of the vehicle to make it slightly larger. Now it's encroaching on the space of the X3, which is their medium-size vehicle. And there were some whispers today about the new X7, which so now they'll have a 1, a 3, a 5, and a 7. And that's interesting. I wonder if the X7, how big it'll be, Jeff.
I think it'll be based on the 7 Series platform, so quite a bit bigger than the 5 Series, I think.
We talking Tahoe size, do you think?
Yeah, roughly. Fully a 7-passenger vehicle.
So we're looking forward to that to come from BMW. There's lots of extra cubby space now in the rear of the BMW X1. A couple of things were explained to us. So BMW famous for their run-flat tires. And these are tires which, if you get a puncture, you're able to actually run on that. The wheel will run as if it was flat. It'll re-inflate itself, as it were. If you have the run-flat tires, you will not have the spare in the back. So they have invented some very interesting spare spaces in the back of the vehicle. If you have the run-flat tire, if you don't have the run-flat tires, you would require a spare. And so you'll lose a little bit of that cubby space. But with the second row down in that vehicle, you can get 7 feet of space and that's pretty much long enough to sleep in if you fold those second rows down. So there's lots of extra space in it. Up front, they've redesigned the center console now to allow you to have a much more sort of lower center console, so you have much more room. They put a cover in there for the cup holder area, which a lot of people had been asking for. They've really made some great spaces on the inside. The thing we noticed it was missing, though, no paddle shifters, Jeff.
That's true. I had to use the ratchet shift on the console-mounted shifter to change gears using the automatic. I found that the sport mode really didn't care for the up and down and the off-road very much, but when I put it in comfort mode, it worked much better on the off-road.
So on one of these detours, the bridge looked like it had been taken out completely ahead of the road, and so they diverted us across this wooden bridge. Once we'd crossed that, we got to another bridge in which we stopped in the middle of the bridge, didn't we?
We did. It was a great photo opportunity. Bridge was more than a little bit rickety, but it held our weight just fine.
And the most interesting thing for me was you could look over the edge and see remnants of cars that hadn't made it across the bridge in one piece. Little troubling, right?
Well, there's always somebody who doesn't get the memo.
Right, and I'm glad to say it wasn't one of ours, and they were fairly old vehicles, maybe from years ago, but I did see the bed of a truck down there. Long drop, a long way down, at least 200 feet, and there was a nice small lagoon underneath the bridge and a beautiful waterfall.
A big drop and a sudden stop.
Yes, something we managed to avoid because of Jeff's... So far, because of Jeff's driving. Got us across the bridge. Actually, I think I drove on the way back. So the BMW X1, bigger, lot more space, some exciting new interior colors, a lot fresher interior. They've upped the material quality, and they've made the vehicle look really nice. When we come back after the break on Test Miles, we're going to talk to one of the product managers about this BMW X1, which is just going to be in showroom shortly, and find out all the stats. By the way, Jeff, did you have a good lunch?
The lunch was fabulous. We were in this little village down in the river valley, and ceviche, and a nice piece of fish, Jamaica to drink, and couldn't ask for better.
And a fresh, ripe avocado.
Oh yes, best part. The avocado salad with shrimp and black beans.
That's what you get in Mexico. Great driving roads. By the way, twisties and turnings. If you can hear things rolling about in the back, we're not going more than 40 miles an hour, but these roads are so twisty and turny that the passenger tends to get thrown about, as well as the luggage. I hope your camera's back up there is okay, Jeff. Listen to FM News 101 KXL. I'm Nick Miles. Welcome back to FM News 101 KXL. I'm Nick Miles. The final lap of Test Miles this week, and we have been driving the X1. You heard Jeff and I in the last segment give you our opinions of it and talk a little bit about the tundra and the rocks that we had to navigate around the roads in Mexico. But John is joining us from BMW, and you're the product manager for the X1. So this vehicle has pretty much been dominant in its segment, hasn't it?
It was, Nick. This is the all-new X1 for 2016. And if you recall, the previous generation X1 only had a 3-year life cycle. And in that 3 years, we sold over 68,000 units. And we really considered the X1 to be the pioneer in its segment. It founded this compact premium SAV segment. And the new X1 builds on some of those competencies and then takes it to the next level. So we have much more interior space, more rear leg room, more headroom, and so forth. We also have an all-new engine, an all-new 8-speed automatic transmission, and every one of these vehicles comes with our new all-wheel drive X-Drive system.
It sounds like somebody at BMW spent a long time putting this vehicle together.
We did, and the reactions we've received so far have been very positive, in particular in the interior. The interior is a very premium design, all soft-touch materials, premium Dakota leather, even the all-new Sensatec, which is much more soft and supple. In the rear seat, it's really tremendous. You have up to 2.5 inches additional legroom over the previous generation vehicle. And we have this sliding and reclining rear seat, which is really clever. It allows you to slide the rear seat forward by 5 inches and recline it to a 30-degree angle, which allows you to optimize that trade-off between rear seat room and luggage compartment capacity, depending on what the driver's needs are.
I have to tell you something that on the way back from lunch, I did have a nap in that seat, and it was very comfortable.
I'm glad to hear that.
So let's talk a little bit about the interior of the vehicle. I mean, you said there's a lot of new soft touch materials. Yes, very impressive, I have to say, after driving it. The color schemes, everything you've put together on the inside is very pleasurable, but it's also a BMW, isn't it? I mean, I could get in this vehicle and recognize it as a BMW. So you haven't strayed from the hallmark of the company.
No, absolutely not. When you look at the interior of the vehicle, you instantly recognize it as BMW. However, it's important to point out that the vehicle has a character all its own. So it is a relatively small vehicle. The footprint is relatively small. So what the designers and engineers did was pay very close attention to maximizing every bit of interior space. So we have some really clever storage solutions, like a storage compartment under the front seat. And we have a center console that's positioned lower. So it gives it a more open and airy feeling. Even in the luggage compartment, there's under the partition, there's an enormous storage space.
One of the things that I know that you were very proud of was the storage space. The other thing, of course, was the fact that you've actually made the vehicle a little bit bigger. When you start to look at the exterior, it's a little more menacing than that first generation.
Oh, without a doubt. It's a very robust vehicle. Every time you look at this, you immediately think that's a BMW X vehicle. It has very similar characteristics to the X3 and the X5. Just to put it in perspective, it is about an inch wider and about 2 inches taller, but it's actually a touch shorter. So these all around these proportions give it these true sport activity vehicle proportions that our customers are familiar with the X3 and X5.
Now let's talk about who's going to buy the vehicle, because you say that you sold 68,000 in that first generation. This new generation hits dealerships at the end of the month. Who are the target customers? Because this is an evolving segment. There are a bunch of car companies who try to get into the segment, and we're nowhere near as successful as BMW.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And it is a new market segment, and it is expanding. And what we found that is very interesting was that it's not like a very niche car where you have a very special type of customer for that car. It's such a well-rounded vehicle. We find that it appeals to customers from young professionals to small families in particular. The active lifestyle folks with all this capacity, it's easy to throw bikes in the back and so forth, as well as the empty nesters. It's in fact, my own mother is buying an X1 in a couple of weeks.
Let's talk about a little bit about one of the things that BMW is really all about, and that's the driving characteristics. You can get in a BMW and you can almost drive it with your eyes closed, maybe on an open airfield, and really tell that you're inside a BMW. So there's a huge line to match with that BMW with an SAV to hit all those driving characteristics. But you kind of managed to do this, and we explained as we were driving through the mountains today in Chihuahua that there were obstacles on there that you just don't find on ride and drives from car companies, and boulders the size of the car just sitting in the middle of the road. And we'd have to do some quite rough off-roading that I might have taken a Wrangler on if I had had a car to choose. But the X1 had no trouble in navigating that. So along with these road driving dynamics, you've managed to marry it into a vehicle that has capability in tough circumstances.
It does. And yeah, the rock slides and the washed out roads do make things a little more interesting. And of course, it's a BMW, so you expect the on-road performance, the 0 to 60 in 6.3 seconds. And it really is a great handling car as well. But today, as you saw off-road, and I'm glad you appreciated that, there were some pretty rough roads. And we do have a fair amount of ground clearance. It's 6.8 inches. And what we find is that with this all-new X-Drive system, it proactively transfers torque. So what that means is instead of waiting for something to happen like wheel slippage, or in the case of the rough roads, if a wheel comes off the ground, it doesn't wait for that. It transfers torque to the wheels that have grip before it thinks that they're going to lose grip. So in the case of you driving on the gravel and the very rutted roads today, I'd be willing to bet you were very pleased with it and didn't ever have a concern about a loss of traction.
No, absolutely, and even when you get into some difficult circumstances where there are potholes which come up to perhaps the middle of the wheel, the vehicle had no trouble. And of course, one of the things that they do in Mexico, which they do nowhere else in the world, is when you come up to railway tracks, they seem to put large tree-size road bumps in the way, and just so you slow down before the railway tracks. And we in England call them sleeping policemen. Here they call them. What do we call them in America? Speed bumps. Speed bumps. Yeah, speed control devices. Speed bumps. So they, and it had no trouble getting over those. If you accidentally didn't see it coming up, we were warned in the 3 Series to beware of it. But the X1, this was probably what it was made for.
Yeah, I have to tell you, I've never in my life seen speed humps like this before. They must have been about 12 inches high. However, the X1, I would hope nobody went over them at 30 or 40 miles an hour, but nonetheless, it was no trouble at all.
So let's talk about price, and you've talked about the audience that you aim the car for, and you've talked about who will be getting into it. You priced it starting with delivery at just over $35,000. And presumably, if I decide to stock it up, I can get higher than that, but there is only really one version of the vehicle available.
Right, so we do have a number of standalone options and a few option packages that you can choose from. But in terms of the overall vehicle configuration, there's only one. They're all the xDrive 28i, which is all-wheel drive. And the 28i, this is an all-new engine. It's a 4-cylinder turbocharged engine. It makes great power, and this is the first BMW application for this engine.
All right, so $35,000 gets you into the vehicle. Do you foresee, this is the point, by the way, I should pre-warn you. This is where you say we can't talk about future product. Do you foresee any other trim levels or engines coming in the vehicle?
I can't talk about future product.
You're listening to Test Miles on FM News 101 KXL. Thanks for listening to today's show, all the way from Chihuahua, Mexico, driving the BMW 3 Series and, of course, the X1. And as you can tell, we're very pleased with the product. I'm Nick Miles.